Welcome, everybody, to our True Self Talk, a reflection of our monthly free energy session, Connect with Your True Self. Yeah, so thank you guys for coming to this opportunity to connect with yourself and to explore your own inner experience of that. So I've been doing this for over 12 years now, every month. Yeah, so you're welcome to come back every month. This is not a one-time thing. Yes, just a simple RSVP to be in the session. You receive instructions. And in this month's Connect with Your True Self, the one that just ended, I must say from my end, yeah, as I'm doing energy sessions every day, hundreds of people every month, this was quite an intense session. Yeah, so here at transCODES, we have a bunch of subscribers, so we do regular energy sessions, feel into collective energies, work with specific topics, different programs and so forth. But this is where we all come together, and I can tell that the energies have been building here just by these past energy transmissions that we had last 2 weeks, collective clearing, unified self, really feeling into our own internal guidance system. And if you feel super overwhelmed, if you feel it's really difficult for you to connect with yourself, understand that that is part of our collective conditions right now. Yeah. So you are not alone with this. It's very intense right now, what we feel on this psychic level. Yeah, the psychic experience that we have that is not entirely aware to us. So this psychic pressure or distress takes place in the immaterial, in the unseen. Yeah, it is the same type of energy that you pick up on when you enter a room or when you just feel into a person or relationship or an item perhaps. And it is something that only if we train this, yeah, if we systematically train how to navigate our own inner signals, that we can make sense of them. If you are here because you are part of this group of people who are energetically sensitive and pick up on things, then this is the right place. Yeah, we come here together to talk about these things, to express them, and in that way to refine and rarefy our inner experience of this. So there's no right or wrong. Yeah, when I will reflect on the session here any moment, then I need you to understand that it really isn't about what I am seeing. It is about what you are or how you are experiencing it. Yeah, this connection with your true self and the insights or the guidance that you can pull from this. So I want to remind you to ask questions. Now, ask questions about your personal energies, because I did take protocol of all your energies. Everybody who RSVPs, yeah, gets a free sort of dipping into your energy and seeing how you're doing, yeah, overall. It's not a prediction or a channeling. It's just a simple energy reading. So, yes, it's rough right now. And part of that, as I have laid out in the forecast for September, is all the stuff that is going on somewhere where we cannot really define it. There are streams and clouds and currents of energy all around us, and we're picking up on the intensity, but we don't know what it is. This triggers partially our body's nervous system. Yeah, so we can feel this in either, like elevated stress, yeah, maybe stomach issues, maybe issues with your digestion, issues with your throat. Those were very prevalent here the last 6 weeks. Yeah, like issues with, sort of things are kind of getting stuck here. And for us as energy readers, that's always the expression part. Yeah, so the throat chakra, the fifth chakra, yeah, where in order to release and balance these energies that are sitting here, yeah, in your face, yeah, the stuff that comes into your face, in order to properly process and express them, we need to learn how to communicate. Yeah, and sometimes, yeah, even if we are having the best intentions, others can't really find good ways to communicate in those times. And this is now coming to a head, guys, because there is so much that is stuck in people. There's so much that they are not able to express, that they're holding in, that they're repressing, that they are absorbing. Yeah. I want to say that the majority of people right now is not actually able to communicate themselves properly. And in addition to this, we have these really strong psychic stress energies, yeah, that affect your ability to discern, your ability to know what is mine, what is not mine, what comes in from the outside, and what is the stuff that I need to work on. Yeah, thank you for your hearts. So one of the big issues right now, and this was visible in you guys' energy fields, is this overwhelm. Yet just sort of subjectively experiencing the stress. The session felt very rushed, very almost difficult to arrive. Yeah, did you guys feel this too? Maybe you had a lot of distractions around you, or maybe those distractions were just in your head, but it was really, really hard to stay focused on connecting with yourself. Now, what does connecting with yourself, with your true self mean? Yes, it was really hard to ground, John, correct. And that's why that was one of the first things that came in. Yeah, connecting with your true self always means to yeah, take a break, take a breather, breathe out. Can you feel this when I do this? Yeah, and kind of symbolically push your energies down a bit. Okay, it's like putting the regulator down. Everything that is there is still there, but it's no longer in the foreground with its intensity. And sometimes, and this was the case during this session, we have to do this over and over again. We have to literally remind ourselves every, 30 seconds, every minute, hang on, hang on. My system here is in autopilot. I keep getting pulled outside of myself. I keep getting pulled out. So let me bring this back. Let me pull this back in. Yeah, so this was almost like the first half of the session was all about that. And this is a very important practical guidance here. Really what it teaches you is that there are sometimes times like that, and that your job is not to trying to fix it all or to juggle it all and to be the best firefighter, fire putter outer there is, but to go inward and it doesn't take long, yeah, like 30 seconds, 1 minute, to keep grounding in this and ask yourself, okay, who am I? Okay, I'm me. That's why the invocation for this session starts with saying out loud your name. Yeah, saying, I am a true self. I am, in my case, Jona Bryndis. Really, that's all it takes, guys. It's almost like a spiritual attendance. Yeah, you say, okay, I'm here. Ooh, it's difficult for me to stay here. Okay, hang on, give me a moment to get settled. Yeah, let me breathe. And so as we are experiencing this stress, okay, we need to be careful to not get into our judgment about this. Who of you got caught in their judgment? Like, oh, it's so hard for me to focus right now. Oh, I can't really stay in this, I mean, in doing this, oh no, I don't have time for this. Does anybody want to share what this inner dialogue looked like for you if you found yourself in this place? Does anybody want to share? What can such a dialogue sound like when you have an intention, but you find it really, really difficult to follow through? Oh, I know what it sounds like inside of me. Oh,
I,
yeah,
I,
go ahead.
I think for me, it comes down to feeling like a child sometimes when I can't find the right way to assert myself and my needs and my boundaries. And it's funny, but intuitively, I do know, but I don't listen to it soon enough to catch myself out. And then it becomes a spiral of external, internal. It's like, and then afterwards I've cleared it. I'm like, what was that even about? So it's almost like my own
That's
ridiculousness.
exactly how it goes. Yeah.
But at the same time, it's so exciting. It's so like liberating to know that I'm not alone in
Yeah.
these things and that I belong. It's not
Yeah.
something I'm used to, and it's kind of like, wow, and I'm just grateful. But the reality still is that I still have to kind of maintain my core. And I think there's still that, like, I want to go through everything so quickly because I'm so excited. So I'm like, no, not that forceful energy. And so I do everything you've said. Like I say, I am Sean. Like I do that like every day. And I kind of like stretch for a minute or two just to say, hang on, you're
Yeah.
going too way ahead of yourself again. So I think for me, what you said about bringing myself right back is kind of making a stance with that force.
Spot on, Sean. So reading your energy was all about making a stance, but not in the sense of, you know, um, fighting against something on the outside, but rather maintaining a proper feeling for your own boundaries. Yeah. A lot of times what happens, and this is very, very common among energetically sensitives, is that we don't have proper boundaries. Yeah, and it's very difficult with the collective because the collective is not one person or something that you can pinpoint. Yeah, it's this overall weather condition. So it's very, very difficult to say, oh, or this isn't mine, this is the collectives. We do this sometimes, and this is part of our learning to set better boundaries, yeah, by recognizing that there is something like a soup cooking all around us, yeah, and then that is the reason why it's so steamy and hot in the kitchen, okay? But
Melting pot.
yes, but making a stance means like, okay, I recognize that there is something going on with other people and it's affecting me. This doesn't mean that it's like bad energies or negative energies or demonic energies. All it means is like, ooh, you know, I need to particularly take care of maintaining my own space. Yeah, so boundaries for my own space. Choose. Yeah, so discern what I want to let in, what I don't want to let in. And the last part, and I love how you said that, was in regard or pertaining collaborating. Yeah, that you're not alone, that you belong if you want to belong. Yeah, there is an exchange that has to occur, and that's why making a stance is so, so important. Yeah, we have to juggle this. Of course, our instinct says, oh, let me just put up the walls and isolate myself when you feel that there's a storm brewing outside of yourself, yeah, in your neighborhood or in your company or in, just the city or country that you live in. But then you're also cutting yourself off from that belonging. A beautiful example that happened at our school a couple of days ago was when I talked to all the students at primary education level, kindergarten to 5th grade, about discerning different levels of friendship. And I started off with, okay, so you have strangers, and then you have acquaintances, and then you have casual friends, then you have close friends, and then you have best friends. And it seems profane, but it is something that we also sometimes need to remind ourselves of. And we talked through different, ways of communicating. So we clearly communicate differently with people that we don't know, that are strangers, and with people that we just met or that we just casually meet, as compared to our close friends or family. And mind you, this kid was 6 years old. He said, but Miss Jona, how are we ever going to make friends if we're not supposed to talk to strangers? Can you see the analogy here? How should we ever feel a sense of belonging and exchange and collaboration if we separate ourselves from all that is not us, that is not possible? So we have to find ways, and that's the exciting part here that, John, that you mentioned, is that there is a greater opening now to actually feel that we belong. Yeah, many of us come out of this sort of woodwork, yeah, this sort of fringe dweller woodwork where we felt so isolated because most people either didn't or couldn't understand us, or just simply thought that we were weird because we weren't seeing the world like they were seeing. And now there is so much more opening. Has never been easier to be spiritual than it is now. Yeah, so there's nothing that we really need to hide, but we still need to use discernment. Yeah, so discernment is basically the quest that we are all on. And the overall session energies for this session was, well, I mean, for lack of a better word, I don't want to use the word reset, but for the lack of a better word for reset, I want to say something like a new beginning. There's a big shift that is occurring right now. And that's part of what we are picking up on as this psychic stress. Yeah? That shift is happening outside of us. And mind you, even people that are not seeing themselves as spiritual, they're picking up on this as well. And it triggers uncertainty. It triggers the fear of the unknown in all of us. So it is today more than ever important that we know who we are and where our home is. Yeah, how can I find this center in me that can at least, yeah, the absolute minimum of belonging inform me, yeah, that I am here with my true self, that I am not sort of getting lost, that I'm not getting lost on the outside if, this collective stress is too overwhelming, or that I'm not getting lost on the inside if I have shut myself off and isolated myself too much, yeah, and got too focused on, say, details or particular aspects of, my life, yeah, my physical 3D life, paying the bills, or my emotional life, etc. Yeah, so it's this balancing act, and the overall energy of the session had to do with shifting, learning how to be better at making shifts, at making transitions. And I want to share a slide with you here. Can you guys all see this? It's called shifting your energy, yeah. And in the slide, okay, I show the process, yeah, how this goes with yourself. Okay, let's say you find yourself in a state of reactiveness, yeah, you feel triggered, you lashing out, or you are pulling in and you don't know what to do, and you are experiencing very high levels of inner or outer conflict, higher levels of inner or outer conflict. Yeah, this is sort of, from an energetic point of view, the worst case scenario. Now, high states of inner or outer conflict can also mean bombardment. Yeah, that there's a lot that is coming in from the outside, requests or things that you promised or that you committed to, or things that are just not going well. We've had an extended period of this here in these last 6 weeks, guys. Don't forget that. Yeah, things going wrong, nothing really working. Yeah, and so, you know, as this accumulates in us, it can create a lot of inner conflict. Yeah, us knowing that we are maybe not getting our job done as good or as well as we wanted or intended to, stuff like that, or things that we have been procrastinating. So this is the description of a conflicted state, and from an energetic point of view, that is an extremely low vibratory place. Yeah. And when we find ourselves in this kind of reactiveness, yeah, like where you just in this fire put her out of mode, we have to acknowledge that. Yeah, this is why I'm educating you on this, because if you can say, oh wow, I am in a fire put her out of mode, I am reactive, I'm completely triggered right now. Yeah, you've already made the first step, yeah, into a slightly higher vibratory state. If you can then, and this is what we talked about here, actually take this break, stop for a moment, yeah, 30 seconds, 1 minute, 5 minutes, and say, hang on, hang on, hang on, this is too much. Let me take a breather. Okay. I am Jona Bryndis. I am a true self, and I am here. Okay. I'm doing this as I'm saying this. Okay. In that moment, you have made another important step in shifting your energy into a slightly higher vibratory state, because you've simply disrupted what was ongoing. So the disruption is something where most of us falter. Yeah, because there's so much emotional and mental juice in all this combobulation, all right, that our ego kind of jumps on it like sort of these sensationalists news. Okay, it's like, oh my God, and this, and this, and this, oh my God, and did you know, and blah, 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 and blah, 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 and this is terrible, terrible, terrible. Yeah, this kind of sort of internal reporting. Yeah, and then reiterating it, yeah, rehashing it internally, either, you know, going through the emotions of it over and over again, or, you know, just keep telling yourself how bad everything is and da da da. Yeah? Did anybody ever experience themselves in that kind of state? It just keeps going on and on and on. The very same thing. That's why, Sean, what you said, you know, when it's all over, we ask ourselves, what was this even about? 90% of our thoughts are repetitive thoughts. They go on and on about the exact same thing. Anybody know what I'm talking about? Can you relate to this? How I get caught in this, it's like a mill or like a wheel, okay, where it's just the same thing over and over again. Yeah. Anybody ever been stuck in places like this for more than just a few minutes or a few hours, maybe a few days, without it, you know, sort of significantly slowing down or sort of releasing? Okay. So if you find yourself stuck in those places, it's very important. This acknowledging part is super important, because you have to recognize that you are stuck. Okay, that this is a wheel, that this is an involuntary wheel. All right, and so the disrupting of that becomes ever more important. And the disrupting needs to happen through your own proactiveness. There needs to be this part in you, and we call this the true self, that says, hang on a minute, this does not make sense. Yeah, you're rallying yourself up, you're wearing yourself out. And there's no solution, because all it is this repeat, almost like a CD on skip. Yeah, that's disrupting, guys. Yeah, is one of the most important energy self-healing and clearing techniques. This is not solving yet. This is not bringing about any kind of fix. It just stops the negative momentum, the negative trajectory, this sort of spiraling yourself further down. But when you can do that by simply doing these steps, breathing, checking in with yourself, saying to yourself who you are, and even if you have to repeat this over and over again, you are already 3 steps forward. Now the next step, and that's what we're practicing here when we connect with our true self, is creating a little more space. Yeah, realizing that whatever situation you are in is not conducive for you connecting with yourself. And that then requires a little bit more self-responsibility. You have to go into this and say, okay, apparently isn't going to happen by itself. This isn't going to come in from the outside. I'm not entitled to inner connection coming in from the outside. Yes, do we all want to connect with others? Do we all want to have the feeling of belonging? Do we long for that? Yes, but it's not something that we can claim from others. Connect with me. Give me what I need, what I cannot feel on the inside. This is not how this works. We have to connect first with ourselves, because then everything that we put out is much more congruent, matches up, is much more authentic, it aligns more. Last month we talked about how all these false selves that we build, these narratives in our head about how others need to see us, and how we need to be, and what we should say and do, and so forth, that how they are actually feeding the lower vibratory, the darkness in us. So we have to disrupt that and just simply be okay with connecting. This is a place where it almost feels like nothing is happening. Yeah, it's a standstill. And you just go into the silence and you just work with yourself. Yeah. And you need to discipline your mind a little bit. You don't try to solve anything, you're just trying to connect. So understand this, that apart from disrupting, connecting is actually I want to say, most instrumental way for you to find back to yourself and to help yourself clear things. Subjectively, it feels like nothing is going on. But energetically, you're doing exactly what Sean just described. You making a stance for yourself. You sort of feeding, you're charging up, not in a negative way, in a positive way. You're energizing who you are. Not who you want to be, who you should be, who you weren't, your failures, mistakes. No, no, no. Who you truly are. I'm a true self. I'm a soul that is on this physical journey. And that is then what can catapult you into at least a neutral state. So this is the goal here. The goal when we are triggered is always to at least become neutral and become able to discern. That's why you hear me say this word discernment so often, because this is the next level of consciousness, that we need to aim at when we find ourselves caught in lower vibratory ego states or even heavier, like dark places. Yeah, what we need to aim at is discernment, is the ability to tell, what is mine, what isn't, what do I need to deal with, what do I not have to deal with, what can I let go, what can I clear out. Yeah, because in that moment you are taking charge. Yeah, you become the self-responsible self-healer that you can be. You're still not solving anything. Yeah, that's the part that is so hard for our ego to accept. But as you are discerning, you are literally sort of creating smaller chunks, and you're weeding out things, and it all becomes so much easier to digest, to process, and to deal with, that in the end it becomes a lot easier to find solutions, because the resolution, the resolve here, yeah, that's still a few steps to go. But without discernment, yeah, everything is just sort of coming in all at once, yeah, and completely overwhelming us. So I want you to keep this in mind. Of this is all part of the sacred self-healing infographics here. Yeah, I've translated this shifting your energy overview here into the internal dialogue, yeah, and also this sort of confliction, same steps, yeah, and what this feels like, what the inner experience is like, or what it could be like, what it could sound like, yeah. So I'm going to send these two infographics with the recording, yeah, that you will receive in your email, and that will also be posted in the forum for this energy session that we just had. The forum is also the place where you can inquire about your personal energies a little bit, where you can share your experiences, and where you can have me give you feedback on this. Yeah. We have a few minutes here. Does anybody want to maybe comment or go a little deeper on specific experiences that they've had? Yeah, anything that you would like me to reflect on right here in this live session right now? It's very oh, there you go. Hi.
Yeah, this is my first one. I'm not sure. It's Melissa, and I'm not sure if this is a time where, is it okay to just ask what you felt when you protocoled for me?
Of course. It's usually kind of difficult for people to put this into a coherent language. This is also part of the practice, yeah, with these monthly sessions, to just connect with yourself. So I'm not giving you a reading or channeling or anything, but I can give you my protocol, yeah, my observations. Okay, so you see here I have a huge list of people that were in the session. Okay, so Melissa, this is interesting. For you, it's very much like similar, just probably a little different for you subjectively, but the overall theme is very similar to Sean's theme. Yeah, there's discernment of, what is outer energy, what is inner, what are outer conditions, what are inner conditions, what can I do, yeah, internally to strengthen myself, to stabilize myself. And I know that I happen to notice that this is exactly also what you're working on in a very sort of literal 3D sense, right? But how can I strengthen myself from the inside to, on one hand, be able to better deal with adversities, with things that are coming in from the outside that feel stressful, yeah, stressors, physical, emotional, mental stressors. But also at the same time, how can I at the same time, connect more? How can I at the same time also feel that I'm not singled out? Because when we are in this reactive state, Yeah, just like I mean, you guys know I'm a huge dog lover. You know, when you scare a dog, when you corner a dog, all right, they can become either aggressive or very shut down. So these extremes are, you know, all part of this reactive state that I just talked about. And I'm not saying that you're in this state. I'm saying that this balancing act is part of the big unfolding for you right now.
Yeah, I actually am.
Does that feel?
Yes, and I have actually been sliding back into more reactivity. Before I started all of this, you asked in the beginning, you were like, has anybody been in that for more than a few minutes, for like days? Like, I spent my whole life in reactivity like that, just like scripting, ruminating, like, oh, and this and this and this and this. And now I feel like before the last week or so, I was doing like really well with feeling competent and feeling
Competency is a
connected.
big word here.
Yeah,
That's
and feeling
exactly.
connected and everything. And then this whole week, like you said, it's like kind of like a reset or a setback of like, I feel unsettled and like lost again.
It's you know, I struggled with the word reset because it's you know, it can mean so many different things for different people, but it's like it feels like things are starting all over again. So there is a positive and a negative to it. You know, if obviously if we've experienced the past week or so as extremely negative, then it may at first feel like a repetition, okay, but you know, we can also see this as a fresh start. You know, as a wiping it clean. Okay, this week didn't work that well. All right, balance.
Yeah, I don't feel
Lines,
like I'm
you know.
getting lost permanent.
Good.
Like, I did just say that, like, I have felt that way, but it hasn't felt like, oh, this is like a permanent thing. It just felt very deep. It didn't feel like long term. It just felt like a very deep, like,
And it's probably a combination,
return.
Melissa, for you and most of us. I mean, I find myself in a similar place. Yeah, I'm always in a state of good connection, but when I look at just my personal life and things that are happening in my personal life, yeah, then I can see this sort of what I called earlier, sort of it feels like a steamy kitchen. There's so much going on. Yeah, some people in my environment are sort of passive aggressive, and but they're not getting it out. They can't really talk about it, so it's a mystery to me what is going on with them. Yeah, I don't want to assume. I don't want to energy read. I need them to communicate this so that we can resolve it together. You know, so sometimes it's like that, but sometimes it's also more subtle. So for all of us here as energetically sensitives, we got to kind of build a little bit of a roadmap here so that we become a little better at, I mean, you don't have to be able to predict these kind of things, but at least to see that it's not all yours. Okay. Yeah. Because when you can tell that, you know, the kitchen is steamy and hot and the chefs are running around and yelling and da da da. Okay. There's
It is an
still,
important point, though, to say that, like, in the grand scheme of things, yes, we're all the specifics are all different, but also in the grand scheme of things, many people are feeling this way.
yes.
And
This
then
is
there's an
very
added
important.
layer of environment
Yes. And this is
for
very
me as
important.
well.
That's why the invocation for this session also has this reference to other people. Everybody else is a true self as well. Yeah, and this plays straight into what Sean said earlier. Also, you know, if we want to feel connected, we need to learn to juggle that. Yeah, we will pick up on other people's stuff. Okay, but at the same time, you know, and not everybody will be able to go into this place of, say, collaboration or working things out together. That too is part of our discernment. Yeah, because sometimes we want it so bad with this particular person or that particular person. Don't want to admit that this person has other values. They're not interested in that, and to just let go. Yeah, sometimes we just have to let go and say, well, okay, I've tried to work this out with this particular person, and it doesn't seem like they're interested in it. So I need to let go of that. If there are other aspects to this, like if it's at work or if there, do you know what I mean? If there's ramifications to to no longer being able or wanting to work things out, okay, then we have to even more so, think about, like, okay, is this important to me? Yeah, like Sean said earlier, sometimes we ask ourselves what this was even about. So when it comes to discerning this, what is mine, what is others? And especially in times, which is why I forecast and why I do this predictive language for you, yeah, when there is a lot going on, and when there are impulses coming in and in these subtle realms that most people cannot interpret, they cannot make sense of them, it is predictable that people are not showing up in their best way. They will show up reactive as well. They will show up repressed. They will show up losing it. And to put this into account is ultimately then, where we check in with ourselves, and where we must check in with ourselves, because sometimes it's okay to just let it go. Yeah, like this example that I was just, this imagery that I was just creating. Let's say you run a restaurant and you have a kitchen, and you have more guests than you expected, and you have a bunch of chefs in there, and everything's cooking, everybody's running and yelling and getting into each other's space, right? As soon as the restaurant closes, all that is over with, but the relationships are still there. So sometimes, this discernment also means to take a step back and protect the relationship, because you recognize, okay, this is a very, very steamy moment. And it's not possible for others to show up the best way. Yeah. And sometimes those kind of situations can also show you the true colors of another person. Do you know what I mean? It's rough sometimes, Melissa, because sometimes we have to put the larger context into account and say, okay, we're all stressed out right now. There's no point in getting into a fight over this or this or that. And so for some subjects in life, that is appropriate. But for other subjects, let's say somebody treats you in an abusive way, speaks to you abusively, degrades you, puts you down, and there's a track record of that, a track record over a long period of time, that's a moment where we have to say, look, I can't do this anymore. This goes against my inner connection, period. And if the ramifications are, I don't know, you lose your job, or you lose something else, a relationship maybe, or money, or something else, then there's discernment, and you have to be in that neutral place that I described earlier to make a good choice here. Then, you letting go is fundamentally making a stance for yourself. But we cannot make a stance for ourselves when we are reactive. And this includes desperation, overwhelm, wanting to check out. Those are not the states in which we can make good choices. This is extremely important. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're feeling everything is too much, you can't handle it, this is not the moment to make important decisions in your life. And it is also not the moment to blame it onto others. The acknowledgement can sound like, okay, I'm overwhelmed right now. I'm not in a good place. I need to take responsibility for that, sort of trigger right now by, either seeking the time out and say, I need to first take care of myself. So this is, by the way, one of these codes that came in during the session, is to set clear priorities and to understand that self-care is the first step. So taking a breath, saying to yourself who you are, doing your attendance. That's the sort of the prerequisite. And then you go into, okay, what are my most important needs right now? What do I need to do to better, to increase this connection with myself? And this then shifts your energy into a more proactive and a more active sort of attitude toward this. This doesn't mean it's all your fault. It doesn't mean that you agree with whatever's coming in from the outside. It just means that you recognize that you are not in a good place. And when you recognize that you're not in a good place, it's best to focus on what you need to make yourself feel better. What can I do right now to make myself feel stronger, more stable, more competent, more capable, more neutral, more balanced? Now, maybe it's as simple as sleeping. I need more sleep. I need more water. I need better food. I need better sort of environment. I need a walk in nature. You know, a lot of people right now are getting caught in these metabolic imbalances of not exercising enough. Who of you has a problem with getting so wrapped up in everything that you dismiss the most fundamental sort of self-care for yourself, such as, you know, moving your body enough or giving yourself the best food that you can give yourself? Who of you feels that it's hard to do this right now? I do. Yeah, and that will have the consequence that you cannot fully connect with yourself. So no matter how harsh it is what comes in from the outside, the outer conditions, the psychic stress, or, you know, our inner confliction, our responsibility is to put ourselves into a better place, into this, what can I do for myself to make myself feel better? Yeah, we are the first responder. We have to be the first responder when it comes to our own well-being. And if the first responder doesn't show up, if you do not show up for yourself, all this, you know, telling other people off and setting boundaries with others is not effective because you are not showing up for yourself. I know that this is a lot of sort of theoretical, because there are situations, practical situations in life where it's much more complex than that. But try to understand the gist here. Try to understand the actual process. When you feel out of source, when you feel out of balance, you, and it's actually with the help of your true self, need to be the first responder. By empowering, by caring, by connecting with yourself. Yeah. And that is hard enough. Let go of trying to find fixes for everything. These fixes will come when you are in a higher vibratory state. Yeah. So the more you sort of level up into higher states, you know, by reducing the stress and by caring more for yourself, that the more options you will see, the more solutions you will be able to make out. And that will then allow you to solve problems. So we have to sometimes trust that in that acknowledgement of our own state and taking responsibility for that, you're taking action to increase our own vibratory state, that is already one step toward resolution. Yeah, carefrontation. The carefrontation is then the actual sort of executing of resolution. That is then with others. The carefrontation as opposed to confrontation. This also came in the session, by the way, that a lot of you guys repress anger, hold in, and that you are afraid of confrontations with others, those that could lead to resolutions. But listen, if you're in a low state, yeah, you cannot actually do carefrontations where you actually have constructive conversations. You need to first put yourself into this place that you can even have a care confrontation. If you're triggered, if you're reactive, you're not going to have a care confrontation. Yeah, there's an extra video about this called use the search function on my YouTube channel where I talk about how these care confrontations work. But it's intuitive. You understand what I mean. It's a proactive confrontation with something like, hey, you know, our relationship feels kind of off, you know, it feels like there's a wall between us. It feels like we can't really connect that well. Do you want to talk about it? Do we want to create a space together where we can, you know, address this? Yeah, that's what a care confrontation sounds like. As opposed to, why did you, and you always do, and this is bad, and you just like hurt my feelings. That is not how a care confrontation sounds like. Care confrontation is like, this doesn't feel good. That hurts me. That we're not connecting well, and I would like to let you know that I would like to resolve this. I want to resolve this. Do you want to resolve this too? Okay. This is not the resolution itself yet. Do you see? Can you feel that? It is the step, the neutral step that both have to arrive in first before you can do this. So yes, this is all a process, guys. Yeah, so don't expect, you know, that after one session or one talk or whatever, this is going to change for you. The purpose of these sessions is to increase your inner connection through becoming aware, yeah, through your awareness. So that's why I talk about these things, because this allows you to sort of take it in, feel into it, think this through, and then maybe allow that to unfold as you go, yeah, until next month, yeah, or in a couple of days or next week if you're part of the training club here, where we do these kind of energy sessions that are geared towards specific aspects of our lives, you know, every 2-3 times a week. Yeah. Thank you so much for coming to this True Self session, for watching this video, even if you weren't in the session. Again, yes, you can inquire about your personal energies in the forum thread. If you RSVP, you received an instruction email, and you will receive a recording email with the forum link, yeah, where you can ask more personal questions. Thank you so much for those of you who came here live, who asked questions, who shared, yeah, and who made this like a mutual exchange, who helped to make us all feel belong and not feel alone with what we're all going through right now. Yeah, check my YouTube channel, my website, if you want to know more about all these programs and sessions that I offer. Stay conscious, guys. Have a wonderful day.